Hey and welcome to MFFLtv. I'm your host Dylan and the season is so close, I cannot wait. We're just under a week away from our first preseason game and I'm just buzzing. I've missed basketball so much. Probably feels longer because here in Australia we're in lockdown, so look, I'm looking forward to NBA basketball again. And Jason Kidd has announced who's going to be starting for the Dallas Mavericks. So we're going to go break into that as well as see what potential bench unit could look like. But before we get into it, like and subscribe, check me out on Instagram. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. So the biggest surprise in this starting lineup has to be Luka Doncic. No, I'm just kidding. Look, he's one of the best players in the world. You know, porzingis as well, sort of a given in this starting lineup. So really what we were looking for was what fills it out. And Jason Kidd did announce that Tim Hardaway Jr., Finney Smith, and Powell will be filling out that starting lineup. Personally, I'm not too mad at it. The one I probably wouldn't go with is Dwight Powell. He's just not my choice for the starting center. However, my girlfriend thinks he's cute and is currently holding me hostage, so I will try and say some good things about him. Obviously, his pick and roll game on both sides of the floor is really good. Offensively, he's a really good roller to the basket, and he has a good partnership with Luka. And defensively, you know, he's also very good. He was among the best in pick and roll defense last season. He's very quick laterally. He's able to slide his feet and stay in front of defenders. The thing is, for me, outside of that, he's somewhat limited. He can't really create for himself, and he's very undersized. So if he does have to go up against the bigger big men, it's just really tough to compete with that. However, maybe Moses Brown can eventually break into that starting lineup, or Dwight Powell can sort of revert back to 2019-2020, where he had a very good season. Hopefully he can be a big contributor to this team. Tim Hardaway Jr. as well, he did sign that huge contract in the offseason. For me, it was between him and Bullock, but, if we're going to be paying him this much, I assumed there was going to be some expectations for a starting spot. And I think based on his playoff run, yes, towards the end it sort of diminished a little bit. But, he was exceptional. He was our second best player by far. And I think that warrants a starting spot to start the season. We really need him to have a huge season and be putting up at least like 18 to 20 points a game for us to take that next step. And like I say quite a lot on this channel, he does do other things. He's really good at motivating his teammates, taking charges, putting his body on the line. And I think you need that. He seems like one of those guys that's willing to do whatever it takes to win. So I really like that about him. And he's one of the only guys that can create outside of Luka. He's not a stereotypical shot creator, but he's just such a good three-point shooter. He can rise over anyone and hit that shot. As well, puts in someone that can get really streaky, help us blow out games. So I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be really good for us next season as well. And Dodo, you got to love him, does a bit of everything. He's really improved his three-point shooting, and hopefully he can take it to another level next season. As well, good defender, good rebounder, a really good professional, can't really complain about him. And I think within this lineup, he's really just going to be a spot-up shooter. Make some cuts, backdoors, get some dunks, get some putbacks. So I expect him to have another very solid season next season. And I think he's earned the right to be as close to a lock in this starting lineup as possible. We rely on him for a lot of things. Sometimes it doesn't show up in the stat sheet, but he's always making an impact in the game somehow. And that's what I love about Dodo. With this lineup, none of our new guys are going to be making it. So, there will be a lot of familiarity, and hopefully that helps us right off the gate. Bringing in Jason Kidd, that also changes that dynamic. So maybe having Kidd and new players could mess around with it too much. Especially in the regular season, we have done quite well. So I think keeping the same or similar-ish starting fives could really help us start the season really strong and end up putting up a good record. However, what this means is we could end up having a bench that looks something along the lines of Brunson, Sterling Brown, Bullock, Maxi Kleber, and maybe Moses Brown, Willie Cauley-Stein, perhaps Boban on some nights. The thing is, we're not shy of centers at all, so we definitely have options depending on the matchups. And looking at this second unit, instantly what I think is Jalen Brunson is going to have to carry the offensive load. Really the only guy who can create his own shot and be a scorer, so he's going to have to do that on a consistent basis. Due to that, I expect Kidd to mix and match the lineups, have some of the bench guys come in early with starters, and then vice versa, have some of the starters play with the bench guys, maybe like a Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kristaps, or perhaps a Luka, and have Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kristaps resting, just to create more balance between the two teams, so that when our second unit is on, we don't suffer too much. Individually, they are all very good players, and it is a strong bench. Scoring could perhaps be a weakness. The only chance is if maybe Brunson takes that next step in playmaking. But, it's going to be really hard because Sterling Brown, Reggie Bullock, Maxi Kleber, sort of guys where they need the ball given to them. Not really going to create their own shot, more spot-up three-point shooters. Sterling Brown has shown flashes, but I haven't really seen enough to be convinced. And Moses Brown, similar as well, pick and roll target. He's going to need lobs thrown for him. He's going to need the ball under the basket. So I think that is the one area we haven't really addressed, that other playmaker. However, I feel like defensively, this could be a really good unit. Maxi as well has been talking about his rehabbing during the offseason, how he feels a lot better. He's running faster, jumping higher. And I think that's what we're really going to need. We're going to need a really good Maxi Kleber for this second unit. He sort of diminished last season a bit, but hopefully if we can get him back to playing like he was before, then I think that would be a really good addition for this bench. As well, anytime you have Reggie Bullock coming off the bench, I think that's a really good sign. He only averaged about 10 points a game last season for the Knicks. However, he's a very good defender, very good three-point shooter. Honestly, I think he's one of the best 3-and-D players in the league, and someone who can, when he's hot, close out games. Just because of his shooting and defense, he's always going to find a way to be on the floor, I think. Similarly, I want to see the exact same things from Sterling Brown. If he can be a very good 3-and-D player, he played tremendously last season in Houston. If he can replicate somewhat similar output here in Dallas, then that would be really good. He's very athletic. He's a good size for a shooting guard, so he can defend, he can hit the three. And with that, it really makes 2 to 4 be able to swap positions, switch defenders, guard multiple different positions, and I think that would really help our defense. I don't expect on many occasions for other teams' second unit to really go on a run against us. I think this is a very strong team, and leading the team hopefully on defense is Moses Brown, who's been learning under Tyson Chandler. And I think if he can just alter his defense a bit so where he's not constantly jumping on pump fakes, and if he can sort of read defenders' hips a bit better, I think he would be a really good addition, and hopefully someone who can eventually break into that starting spot. What that does mean, though, is I expect it to be hard for, let's say, Tyrell Terry, Josh Green, maybe even Boban and Willie Cauley-Stein to get minutes. With the centers, I think it's going to be constantly rotating to see who works out. That's just a problem. We do have so many that some aren't going to get consistent minutes or consistent run of games. So hopefully, we know Boban isn't someone that usually complains, which is really good to have. So hopefully they can all buy into this and it doesn't turn out to be much of a problem. However, let me know, what do you think about the starting lineup? What do you think about my second unit? Let me know, what would you change to the second unit as well? Always love to hear what you guys have to say. As well, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in that next video.